So the purpose of today's training is to kind of walk you through the instructional steps that we follow in order to make sure that our students are understanding phonological awareness first, and then they're able to blend together the different syllables and words. And so that's the purpose today. And I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get started right away. And so let's do this. Okay, and as I said, this is, I've got to move this. There we go. This is part 2 of rewards training. Our success criteria today will be to develop a better understanding of the rewards program, understand the lesson activities in a rewards lesson, and practice a rewards lesson. So we're going to be going through lesson 4 today. All right. Now, if you want to follow along with me online, you can, as in our last session, we taught you how to log into your digital resources. I did send invitations to a lot of you who didn't have access, and so you should have received an invitation via email for that. And so if you want to follow along digitally with me, you can do that as well today. All right. So we'll get right into lesson 4. This is lesson delivery. You will have some choice at the end of the presentation today to kind of talk about what you learned, or if you want to, you can watch a video or read an article. So we'll actually get, most of this is going to be going through, and you stop me if you have questions, and I'll go ahead and stop and try to answer those questions. So in every rewards lesson, the first thing we do is an oral activity. Here we have blending word parts into words. Students blend orally presented word parts into real words. So right now, this has no print. So this, like, you could turn off the lights and the students should be able to follow along. They don't need to be looking at anything in the book. This is actually called phonological awareness, and phonological awareness has no print. It is the foundation of learning how to manipulate sounds and putting them together and breaking them apart. So students aren't looking at anything. It would be awesome if you pretended to be students today along with me so that you would get a real experience. I will pretend as if I'm the teacher. If you like that real experience, you can pretend that you're the student and you can answer along with, I'm going to ask a lot of questions as if you're the students. So I'm hoping that I'll get a lot of response. And if I don't, it's not going to go as well. You're going to be like, well, there's no answer and you won't get the real experience. So I'm going to be following a script. And it's in the manual. So if you have the manual in front of you, you follow along with me, because it's going to be a lot. You'll get a lot more out of it if you have the manual beside you to kind of follow along, what you're going to be looking at when you're giving this lesson. And if and plus you can kind of catch me and say, hey, Jason, you missed something there. And so we're going to be on page 58 of the teacher manual, which is lesson 4. But that's for the teacher's manual. So it tells me to tell you as the students to open your student book to lesson 4, page 15. So you either have your little student book in front of you that you're following along as a student, or and you can get that over here. So I actually went into the online resources and I just printed out every single student copy for you guys, because I thought that would be helpful to you instead of having to go in. So now you have access to it within Drive instead of having to go and log in every time. You can go directly to the student lesson if you want to use this to pull up for your students and work through it. One of the things I'm going to show you before I continue is that you can actually open this with Kami. And I think that's what I'm going to be working with a lot today, because I think this is one of the better ways to work with the lessons. And so you can just go over here on the side here and use a drawing tool, and you can underline and also use the cursor to show kids where things are. You can just use the little eraser to erase, and and so that's what I'm going to be using today. And so this is really helpful. And this is Kami. If you have not used Kami, you're just opening Kami, a PDF within Kami within Google Drive. And this is it's really useful for teaching this program. So I highly recommend it. So I recommend that you follow along with me. Okay, so we're in our manual. We're on page 58, and I'm going to say, open your student booklet to lesson 4, page 15, and I'm going to say the word part, and you are going to say the whole word. And so actually, I'm going to get back to where I was. I'm not going to be in my screen share anymore. I'm going to go back to this because this is what I'm teaching off of. And so I'll say that again. I'm going to say the word part and you are going to say the whole word. And so performance. What's the word?
Performance.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. So I love that I got one person to respond. And so actually one of the things that you do as a teacher, and I didn't explain this yet, is a lot of times if you, especially at the very beginning, if you want kids to respond orally, you hold the fist, and the fist means hold and think. And we don't respond until you kind of release the hand forward, and then everyone responds at the same time. So when I say performance, and then the students are taught to say the word as a whole and put it all together. And so when I say performance, you hold it and then release. So that's when you say performance. So I'll do that again. So performance. What's the word?
Performance.
Good. Performance. That's the word. So that's something that I think is really important to learn, is that if you want the kids, and this is really important within rewards, is if you want the kids to respond orally, which we do, then it's really important to start out with having these structures in place and kind of visuals to let them know, okay, now it's your turn. After a while, you might be able to release that, and they get it, that they need to give everyone else think time. But I remember listening to Christina, who actually used to train this with me, and she used to talk about this girl. I think the girl's name was Susie, but Susie was always faster than everyone else. And so if she didn't do that, Susie would just like jump on it, and then everyone, well, Susie already answered, so what am I going to answer? The whole thing about this program is everyone gets to participate, and they get to participate at the same time. And the great part also is this is an opportunity where kids who are during the school day are normally with other kids that know more than them. And so they feel they don't participate and they cause trouble a lot of times. But in this environment, they participate oftentimes because they know, wow, all of these people around me, they're at the same spot I am, and they can participate, and they can actually feel successful and as if they're learning. And so this is really a great opportunity to have kids learn to read, but also have them feel like, hey, this is really helping me. And so they can engage in this process. So I'm going to go back. So thank you for responding, and I'm going to continue. You know, sometimes we want to give students thinking time, and so that's what that's for. You can train them to follow your cues. Sometimes, let me did all that without my script there. So we're going to continue this. So I'll say the parts, you say the word. Invitation.
Invitation.
Good. Now I can also give them a prompt, but what I just did there is without saying what's the word, because you could also say what's the word, and then you release it. But I did it that time. You guys were watching me, so I love the fact that you did that. So I'm going to do that again. So I'll say the word parts. You say the word. Invitation. What's the word?
Invitation.
Perfect. Okay, so then I continue with the other examples. And so the next one is, I'm going to hold my fist up. Personality. What's the word?
Personality.
Good. Personality. So you're supposed to say all of the parts of the word. And so, and then the kids say the word. So, and it even tells me in the teacher's guide how to correct someone if you make an error. It says, so if students make an error, say the word and have them repeat it. Okay. So for example, if someone said personality or something like that, I said, okay, the word is personality. What's the word?
Personality.
Personality. So it's really important that, and it's funny because I knew this, but I actually really learned it a lot more through the teaching of rewards than anything else. I think I've always coached, and I've always known, well, if you want kids to get, to do something the correct way, and they're making a mistake, if you don't correct the mistake, what's going to happen? They're going to keep making the mistake because you as the coach didn't coach them to correct that mistake. It's the same thing, obviously, in teaching, right? If we don't give corrective feedback, they're going to continue to do it wrong. So rewards that's what it is. When we listen to kids, and that's why it's really important to have a smaller group within intervention programs, so you can hear all of the kids. They're responding poorly, and you've got to really have your ears perked up to listen for those kids who may not be saying it correctly. And when you do hear someone, you don't single them out and say, "Oh, Johnny, you said it wrong." No, you just do what I just did and say, "Okay, the word is personality. What's the word?" And then everyone says it correctly the second time. So no one gets called out. It's just everyone says it again. And so it's really that easy. Okay, so give them the word expensive. What word?
Expensive.
Okay, so you as the in this particular instance, you as the student don't say what I said, expensive. You say expensive. You actually put, so what they're learning how to do is they're learning how to take the words, the word parts that you're giving to them orally. You're giving them the word parts. And now in their head, they're having to put together all parts to form one word. So sometimes what happens is these words, the word parts, don't necessarily sound exactly like the word is pronounced when it's a whole. And so they in their mind have to put together, so what word do I know that actually sounds like that word? And so expensive, now in their head, they say, "Oh, that sounds like expensive." And when you release it, they say expensive. And so, 95% of the time, they're going to be correct. And so, and when they're not, you actually give them that correction. Okay, good. Let's do it again. Conservation. What word?
Conservation.
Very good. Let's go do it again. Departmental. What's the word?
Departmental.
Okay. So this really works the part of the brain that's able to hold onto word parts and blend them together, because if we can sound out word parts, if we can hold on to word parts and blend them together, we aren't going to be able to, if we can't do that, we can't read the word. Okay, so for the next part, students are going to need to look at their sheet, so that or their booklet. This is vowel combinations and isolations. So we're going to do this kind of reading, and so we're looking at activity B. Let's see, and so yeah, this is vowel combinations and the sounds they make. You will notice a couple of things. One, we are on lesson 4. 2, students will encounter sounds that they already learned in lesson 3. So you're going to pretend that you already know those. So if you're projecting, you can have Cami up or something like it, so you can point to the lesson, or you might have the actual displays for the unit up on the online resource. And so, and I think I'll go ahead and show you where that is in the online resources right now. So actually, this is the book here. So here's the online resources. And if I go to unit 1, and I can go to lesson 4. Oh, that's the wrong one. Let's see here. That's activity E. Hold on. No, actually, yeah. So you some of these you can go to, but not for lesson 2. You'll actually have to go. I wanted to show you this under additional resources. Where I actually got all of those individual student lessons was over here, and so they're all right here. So if you wanted to go here and open up the resource, it's the same thing. What I was projecting. So, and that's what I'm going to use. All right, but that's how you get to it on the online resources. Okay, so I like to have my blank one up first and display display it this way, because I can work with this. And the students are looking at their workbook, lesson 4, activity B, and they're going to look at the first box, and you're going to point to the letters A-R. So I'm going to actually change my selection tool, I think. So can you guys see my cursor? Can you respond? Someone?
Yes.
Okay. So my cursor is here, and what I like to do is keep it to the left, and just to show them where I am, you're going to point to AR. The sound of these letters is usually what sound? It's R. And so what sound?
R.
Good. And so, and I can actually do that. So, and I'll do it again. What sound?
R.
R.
Good, good. Okay. And so then you're going to point to these letters, and I will say, and I'm supposed to say, the sound of these letters is or. What sound?
Or.
Or.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go through line 1 now. Remember, even though we just learned R and or, they also learned and A already in a previous lesson. So here's A and here's, so they already learned those in lesson 3. So just understand that as you're going through this. Okay. So as I said before, I kind of like to put my cursor to the left here to kind of show where we are for the students. So I'm going to go through line 1. Remember, even though we just learned AR, I just talked about that. So I'm going to say think, and then I'm going to say what sound, and then you're going to tell me what it is. So starting with this one, I'm going to say think, what sound?
Or.
Or. Another thing you can do if you teach the kids is that I can also say think and put the cursor right here, and then say what sound, and then I go across underneath, or I could highlight it like that. I can say think and then what sound, right? And so as soon as I highlight it, then they can say it. So that's another thing. If you're actually using your display, you can do it that way. All right. So all right, let's go through these, and I'm just going to go through this. So think, what sound? Oh, I need you guys' help. I'm next to this one with the A and the U. So think, what sound? Good. The sound is, let's do that one again. Think, what sound? Okay, thanks. So it might be that no one responds because they're not really sure what that sound is. In that case, I would have had to say the sound is, let's all say it together. Think, what sound, and you say it, right? And then you move on. And let's do that again for this one. Take a look at this word. Think, what sound?
R.
R. Thank you. Okay, and so remember, it is important to give them think time. And now we're going to do the last one here. And think, what sound?
A.
A.
A. Very good. Okay. All right. So I'm also going to do line 2. And so we're going through what they're telling me to do here. So we're on line 2. Think, sound.
Ear.
Yeah, and that's good. The sound is Let's say it again. Think, sound. Notice that I don't move forward. If there was even a slight mispronunciation, we don't make a big deal about it. The teacher just that says the sound so that everyone can say the sound. They say it and they move on. Do you remember what Anita Archer said about what kind of pace we want to have when we're teaching these? We want to have a perky pace. I love the alliteration. I don't know why, but it puts a smile on my face because it's not something I would say, to have a perky pace, and I think it's fun to say anyway. I'm a total nerd, I guess, but that's okay. All right, so let's take a look at this one. Think, what sound? Okay, good. All right, and then next word, think.
A.
And what sound?
A.
Good. And then the last one, think, what sound?
Or.
Or.
Very good. Okay, so you guys did a great job, and I really appreciate your participation. It makes it a lot more fun. And just think about it. In the classroom, if kids aren't participating, they're not going to learn anything. Because this whole program is about listening to them, and this is oral production of the different syllables and the word parts and so forth. So they have to be engaged and engaging in the conversation. If they're not, you gotta get them to somehow. So that's a really important part. So activity C is the vowel conversions. And so we're gonna scroll up here and go through the vowel conversions here. And here they are having to recognize that vowels have 2 sounds. So when you are reading these sounds, you teach students that when they come across these vowels, we will try the sound first. We'll try the sound first if we are unsure. And the sound, if you don't know what it means, let's look at let's look at activity C. The sound for this one right here would be A, as in cat. So, and then if the sound doesn't work, we try the name, which would be, I'm sorry, the sound, let me do that over. Did you guys hear my mistake? The sound of this is ah. And when I said the example, as in cat and cat, that's the sound. So this sound makes, and then if it doesn't work in a word that we're working with, then we go to the name of the letter. And so what is the name of A? It's A, right? As in aim, for example. Okay, and so let's see here. So in the manual, it says when you're reading words and see these letters, what should you try first? And the students should know the sound or the name. Okay, and the correct response is the sound. So the students need to know that the first thing you try when looking at A, E, I, O, or U is going to be, they're looking for the sound first, and if the sound doesn't work, then they try the what, students? When we're looking at sounds, that's right. So for example, A, the sound is, the sound of A is, and then the name of A is A, right? And so I'm going to go over here and say, what sound for O? What sound does this letter make? Okay, so this sound, O makes the sound, okay, O makes the sound. What sound? Right, so O makes the sound. And now, if it doesn't work, what's the name?
O.
O, right? So again, sound, name,
O.
O.
there we go. Okay, and if you need to give more think time, you will figure out how much time each group needs. So I'm going to go to the next one, this one here. And so follow along with me. This letter is I, as in individual. Okay, what sound?
I.
Very good. So the first time you're introducing them, I should have told you that, you know, later on, they're going to know what the sounds are. If you're first introducing it the first time, you'll say this, for example, you'll say this sound is, and then this sound is, and then they'll do it. And then this sound is I, right? Okay, and then you'll say, and the next thing is, what's the name? No, it's I. Okay, the name of the letter is always the name of the letter. So what's the name?
I.
Good. So we'll do this one again. What's the sound?
I.
What's the name? Great. Okay, and it's and so you do that, and you do it perky, but you do it until they get it correct, right? And some groups will take longer than other groups, but these are really imperative, obviously, that they can say these vowels correctly, because these are the backbones of all words. All word parts have vowels, and actually every word part has a vowel in it, so that and they make up the syllables in the words. And so that's really, 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 really important that they get these correct. Okay, so, and you're actually going to run through this with them twice. So I'm not going to do that with you, but you get it. It's going to be and right. So I'm sorry, and A, and O, and I, and I. Okay, so that's the sound and then the name. All right, and then you do it all over again, and then you run through activity D. These are not nonsense words. These are parts of real words, but they do not make words on their own. So one thing that they learn is that when they see that there's an asterisk in activity D under NA, that indicates to the students that they should say the name. So it's kind of like a visual cue for them to get them to used to seeing that when a vowel is at the end of a syllable, then a vowel says its name. And so it's using the asterisk as that visual cue for them. So you're going to read parts of real words. Most of these word parts are not real words by themselves, and it does give students think time. So it has students put their thumbs up when they are ready to read the next one. So make sure to give them enough time. And so you can do that if that works for you. if you found another way to have students kind of look, like if they look up at you to let you know that they're ready, they don't have to use their thumb if their eyes are on you. That works too. So I'm going to put my cursor to the left of in activity D, number 1, next to that first word part there. And so read the first word part to yourself. What part?
Gar.
Good. Okay. So next word part, look at the vowel with the asterisk. So every time you see the asterisk, you ask the students what name, and you are specifically talking about the vowel. So we're going to go to this next one here, and I'm going to actually, tell you to look at the asterisk and look at the vowel. And so when I'm asking you to look at the vowel and I say what name, I'm only asking you to tell me what the name of the vowel is. So here we are, students. Let's look at the vowel. What name? A.
Okay.
The vowel's name is A. So what name?
A.
A.
Good. So whenever we have that asterisk there, it's going to say the name of the vowel. And so this one is going to be nay. And when we get down to number 2 and you look at the CRO, and I'm going to say, let's look at the vowel. What name? And I'll give you think time. What's the name?
O.
Good. Oh, because it says the name of the letter. Perfect. Okay. So we're going to continue going through some of these. And so let's take a look at, okay, so I didn't continue with this one. So I'm going to say it again. We're going to look at the vowel. What's the vowel? What's the name of the vowel?
A.
Okay. And what's the word part?
Nay. Or
It's nay. That's correct. It is nay. So because that is the word that we said we had the A, that is the word part. So that is correct. Good. Now let's do this one. What's the word part?
Hall.
Hall. That's correct. Good. And we're going to do the next one. What's the word part?
Frayed.
Afraid.
Afraid. Very good. Okay. Let's do one more line together. And then so think, word part.
Alert.
Okay. Next one. Think, word part.
Mod.
Mod.
Good. Okay. Remember, name the vowel. Think. What's the name?
O.
Oh. Now we're going to say the word part. Think, word part.
Crow.
Crow. Good. Think, word part.
Earn.
Earn. Very good. Okay. So you go through the whole line. They do give you some options here. You could have students read a line to the group or to a partner. So you can add a little variety there if you want to. I would at least do the first line together though, to make sure you know where they're at. And if they're still struggling, then you just do the whole thing together. Especially the first couple lessons, you want to make sure they're with you. And you need to be listening. So even if you do let them break it up and do the other lines themselves, you still need to be kind of there right in front of them, listening for possible errors so you can make the corrections. So that's really important. Okay, so now we're going to go to activity E. So I'm scrolling here. Is everyone okay so far? Do you have any questions before I keep going?
Okay.
You're okay? Okay. So you're going to ask your students, what does each part have? So each word part has one vowel sound. So watch me find the vowels in these words. So you can work from the lesson and illustrated vocabulary displays from the online resources, or you can use a blank copy like I'm using here. I like to use this blank copy, like I've said before. Then I underline the vowels and I say what sound. And so you start with that, and then you ask them how many vowel sounds. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So what color should I use? I'll use red. The problem is I don't write very well with these. So underline the vowels. Okay. And so what sound?
I.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't do
Good.
that.
Oh, I'm sorry. And then the next one, what sound? So it's actually the sound is AR, and so it's R. That's correct. And so how many vowels or how many vowel sounds?
2.
Okay.
The hand opening. I'm sorry. If you don't have a hand, I can't answer.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
That's good though.
Just kidding.
Yeah, no. That's correct though. I mean, so how many vowel sounds?
2.
Good. How many word parts?
2.
2.
Good. Because that answer is always going to be the same. And that's because if there are 2 vowel sounds, there will be 2 word parts because the vowel sounds go with word parts every time. So, but you still ask that question because we want to kind of solidify that in the minds of the students that every word part has a vowel. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to continue to underline throughout. So I'm going to go ahead and underline. Okay. Okay, ready? What's the sound? Good. What's the word part? Think.
Haunt.
Haunt. Very good. Okay, and then I'm going to do this one. I'm not very good with writing with this, but here we go. And I should have asked you how many vowel sounds on the second word?
1.
1.
How many word parts?
1.
Okay. What's the sound? Okay. Next one. What's the sound?
It.
And actually, let me do this because I didn't do it right. What's the sound?
A.
A.
Good. How many word parts?
3.
3.
Okay. And I should have said and how many vowels?
3.
3. Very good. I'm doing it out of order. Okay. And so you get the point. And so go ahead and you release the students to underline the rest of the vowels. So they're going to do this part in their workbook. They're going to underline the vowels for 2 through 5. And you're going to kind of walk around and make sure they're doing it correctly. And then you have the kids check their answers. So you could there's a couple things. You can go on the digital website and actually show them it's already done for them. The answers are available, or you can just do it with them. That's totally up to you. And it goes quicker if you show them what it looks like. Okay, so let's see. Bear with me here a second. So in the manual, it says when students are done checking, assist them in reading the words, beginning with the first word in line 1. Remember that students should say the name when they see the asterisk under the vowel. And you'll say, look up here. With each word, trace over the lines under the vowels while you ask what sound. Okay, so we just did that. You also say what part, what part, what part. And so you could do this. You could say what part, and it's actually all the way. Blizz, and then ard, right? What part, they'll say what part, and this is for haunt. You'll say haunt. And then same thing, what part, all, what part, and then what part, day. Okay, so that brings us to activity F. I'm following, have you ever gotten lost on your notes? That's what happened just now. Okay, so now we're teaching students how to recognize close approximations in words. Sometimes they need to tweak the word to make it sound like a real word. So in the rewards case, we want to make sure that they turn it into a real word. So in the book, it actually says for activity 4 on page 64, it says make these words into real words. So listen as I read the word. And so they're going back to listening to oral. Prince. So prin, se, how. What's the word? I'll say that again. Prince. No, prin, se, how. What's the word?
Principal.
Principal.
Okay, so it doesn't it doesn't sound completely like principal when I say it like that, but you as having the knowledge turned it into a word that you knew. So so now we're going to actually work with sentences. So you're going to change the word to make sense in the sentence is what you're going to do. So this is what students are going to have to listen to the sentence, and then they're going to have to within the context of your sentence, listen to the pronunciation of the word and then tell you what the word means. So you're going to tell me what the word is in this sentence. At the beginning of the school day, the principal made announcements. What should the word be?
Principal.
Principal. Good. So here's the word contaminate. The oil spill will contaminate the ocean. What would make it into a real word? What should the word be?
Contaminate.
Contaminate. Very good. Good job. And the correction is, if they're not able to make it into a real word, you tell them and have them repeat it. So the word is contaminate. What's the word?
Contaminate.
Contaminate. Very good. Okay, so the next word is argument. So during the argument, the boys and girls yelled at each other and refused to listen. What's the real word?
Argument.
Argument. Notice that it didn't sound exactly like argument, but it was very close. Argument. And so they have to listen to those word parts and then make them into a real word. So this can actually be really powerful. And I don't know about middle schoolers completely because I haven't been lately, because I haven't been in a classroom for 10 years, but it kind of makes them laugh a little bit about like how the word sounds when it's actually not said correctly. So it's really a good part of the program that really makes them use their metacognition, which is thinking about their thinking. They ask questions like, what am I reading? Or paying attention to what they're actually reading and making sure that they're saying real words. So this is really an important part of the program. So don't skip it, please. Any questions on that?
No.
All right. Okay, so the next part is getting into prefixes and suffixes for this lesson. They're just looking at prefixes, but they do this. Let's see, okay. So yeah, they're just learning about prefixes. And so they need to know where we find prefixes. And so you go ahead and they should have already learned about this. So I'm going to ask you the question. Where do we find prefixes?
Oh,
Again.
Oh.
So if you don't know, then as a teacher, I would say we find prefixes at the beginning of words. Where do we find prefixes?
At the beginning of words.
That's right. So then I come up here and I'm going to point at these words. So the first word is permit. What word?
Permit.
And then I'm going to point to the circled prefix right here. The prefix is per. Say it.
Per.
Thank you. This word is unfair. What word?
Unfair.
The prefix is un. Say it. Good. This word here is afraid. What word?
Afraid.
Okay. The prefix is, say it. Okay, and then I come to the column here, and we're going to read these prefixes. Second. What prefix?
Per.
Per. Okay. What prefix?
Un.
Good. What prefix? Okay, very good. So, and they actually learned those in lessons 2 and 3. All those prefixes. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say we might have noticed the students were answering at different times. So that tells me that I need to give more think time possibly. But you guys are on. It's really hard because you don't see each other either. So there's no cues of when to answer. So I can't really make that. And it's also Zoom. Who knows, like the feedback and so forth, how long it actually takes people. But you may decide that you want to give kids more think time, so you just hold the fist for longer. So what's going to happen is if, like, for example, a fictional Jose answers much more quickly than Susie's going to stop answering unless you give them enough think time, right? Susie's going to be like, oh, I never get to show that I know it. And that person's, they're gonna have this thought that, oh, they always have the answer, just let them answer. But we don't want that. We want every kid answering, and so it's really important to like listen to make sure everyone's answering as well. And you need to remind them, okay, we're all doing this together. Hey, come on, guys, we got this. It's a lot more fun when everyone does it, right? And just be really perky with a perky pace. So it's going to happen. You're going to have kids that are not going to want to participate at times, and you've got to be really encouraging. What I would really encourage you not to do is be mad or mean. That doesn't help. It just makes them mad at you. So just stay positive and stay encouraging. You're gonna get a lot more honey. You got a lot more bees with honey, right, than sticks. So anyway,
You're mixing your metaphors, Jason.
I know.
Okay, see.
Fly is flies, but you know what? I mean, bees make honey, right? So
No, it's honey and vinegar that you're mixing. But that's okay.
okay. Well, I was a political science major in college, and so for me it was carrots and sticks, right? So anyway, that's a whole nother thing, right? During the Cold War. Okay. Prefixes, activity G. Let's take a look at activity G. We're here. We're going to be down here. So we're gonna actually go through these. And so I'm to the left of my cursor's to the left of the word. And so I'm going to do this without, and I'm going to see if you guys can do it. So I'm going to use my words, and I want you to then read, but hopefully have the think time and then say it together. I'm actually, with my words, I'm going to say think, and then I'm going to say read. So ready, think, read. Okay, so I'll go back to my hands. So we're gonna read the prefix. So I'm going to say think, read.
Per.
Good. All right. And then I'm going to each one, and I'm going to give them that. And I just like to train them with my finger sometimes too, or my pen, if I'm doing, because you can do this with your pen as well if you're on a whiteboard or projecting it on a whiteboard. So if you guys have a whiteboard where you can still write on it, that's another way to do it. So like, let's see. So as you can see my cursor, I can just swipe under it, and you can do the same thing with your pen. You can just say think and then read. So I'm going to do that with my cursor. Think, read.
Con.
Okay. Think, read.
D.
E.
Okay. Think, read. Good. Think, read.
N.
Good. Think, read.
A.
A.
Okay. So think, read. Okay, good. Yes. So that's what we do. And so then you can go line by line, and if you decide that they're really getting it, you can release them to partner read to do the rest, but you can also do it more if you need the more of the control, right? So and then we move on to actually overtly doing work with the prefixes. So let's see here on activity H. So don't write yet. It even says to tell them that, because we know how they go ahead. Some words have no prefixes, and some words have one or more prefixes. So let's look at the first word in line 1. So we're going to look here to the left of the word, you and unfit, and they're going to ask them how many prefixes. Oh, and you know what? In the back of the book, there's this prefix, suffix, and vowel sound chart, and it's really a good idea to give them a photocopy of it, because a lot of kids actually don't know prefixes or what the prefixes are, and we can't expect them to remember it, and we don't want them flipping back and forth to the back of the book. It's much better for them to have it. And this isn't a test, so and we're not like, oh well, if you don't know the prefixes, we're not going to tell you. You just have to know them. They need to use the chart, because if they've never been taught them before, then we can't expect them to know them, right? And that's why they're in this program. And so in the slideshow that I gave you, let me go to this slide and I'll go through this here. I threw in, let's see here, it's not there. Wait a second. Oh, there it is down at the bottom. See that prefix chart in gray down at the bottom of this slide? It looks like this. It's also in I put a copy in the folder that I gave you guys a link to. But this is what I'm talking about. You should make a copy for all of your kids. That way they can have it beside them. And so when you're going through the prefixes, they can actually see, oh, is that a prefix? Is that? Oh, we're gonna go through and practice here. So let's go ahead and how many prefixes in this first word?
1.
Good. There is 1. Yes. So then you'll circle 1 prefix, and so you'll go ahead and draw, and you will circle the prefix like that. All right. And then it doesn't say to have them do it right in this moment. You're just kind of going through with them what they're going to do. Look at the second word, start at the beginning of the word and look for prefixes. How many prefixes does this word have?
2.
That's right. Pre and pro. Great. Okay, so you will circle 2 prefixes. So then you'll look at the third word. How many prefixes does this word have?
1.
So that's what I said last year, and I was wrong.
Oh, they're
And
saying
actually,
obtain? Really?
obtain, because there is not a prefix it was ab, remember, and that's the mistake I made, and it's okay. And you say, actually, let's look at our chart, and you can actually do that. I think that's a good idea to have them review their chart, and then you can say, is there an OB on the chart? Oh, nope, I guess OB is not a prefix, right? And so nope, there are 0, and so we're not going to circle any because there are no prefixes, and that's okay. And by the way, I actually made that same mistake last year. So it I don't know, I thought it was a prefix, to be honest with you, but it's not. So we all learn something every now and then, but that's not a prefix. Okay, so there's actually none. All right, so go back to the first word and line 1, circle all the prefixes you have learned. Remember, some words have no prefixes and some words have 1 or more prefixes. So I'm going to allow you to do that. And
Just so you know, I'm challenging that.
Okay.
Ob is a prefix. I'll let you look it up, but it is.
Oh, I thought so too.
It means towards, to, or on, or over.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So they're wrong.
So we were right.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was told I was wrong last time. So I'm like, okay. But in the book, I guess it's not one of the.
Yeah, it's just because it's not one of theirs doesn't mean it's not a prefix.
Oh, I know. I wonder for this word if it is though. Like if you look up the word obtain, I wonder if for obtain it's a prefix. So is it acting as a prefix? Because I know that there's a lot of base words that have what would be prefixes in them, but they're actually base words. So I think in this case, it might be right that obtain doesn't have a prefix in it, which is a really hard thing for kids to understand.
Right.
Because it's hard to know what the base word is always. At least that's one of the things I struggle with. So I'll look that up later, and it's because I like words, and we'll figure that out. It's not a big deal right now though, but according to the book, it wasn't a prefix in this case. Okay, so let's see. All right. Okay, so when they're finished going through and identifying all the prefixes, you're going to actually go to display 4.2. And so you can actually, in your resources, there's 4.1. So there was the answer that you could have gone with, just putting that up on the previous one. But this is for 4.2. So when and actually, if you're going to display this, you might have to put a paper or something over it in order not to show them the fit. Because after they underline or circle all the prefixes, then you're going to have them read the word parts and then the whole word. Okay, so that's what you're going to do. So we'll go ahead and do this. So do you see the loops here? So what you'll say is word part, and then you'll go, right? So word part, word part,
fit,
word,
unfit,
right? So word part,
pre,
word part,
pro,
word part,
gram,
word,
pre-program,
very good. Word part,
obtain,
word,
obtain.
Very good. So you're going to go back with the kids, and so all this repetition that they're doing, it's really teaching them the process of how to piece together the word parts and then read the words, but also the sounds. And so the whole process is teaching them vowel sounds, word parts, and then words together. So it all works together. It's a systematic program. It's interesting because pretty much when we are teaching kids how to read, we have to follow the systematic structural program to teach them, because that is metacognitively how they teach themselves when you're not there with them. They learn that process and they do it when you're not there either. So they're able then to kind of teach themselves when they're encountering words alone, when they're doing independent reading or whatever. Especially why it's really important when you're doing independent reading that they get really texts that fit for independent reading. Now it's totally different when you're instructing something in the classroom as a whole class. Because you're teaching them, you can deconstruct a little bit, and they can actually learn new words that way. But if they're reading independently, they have to be able to deconstruct those words, and it has to be at a level that they can work with still. So that's why, especially with this program this summer, make sure that when they choose books for the independent reading portion, that they're really choosing books at the low reading level, that they're going to be not too low. If they're, some of these kids that are being placed in rewards are at the 30 or 40th percentile, and so they might be at a higher level. But if they're kids in the like 10th percentile, they should be getting really like third grade level texts, so, or even second grade, so depending upon the student. All right, so you're going to go through that like we just did and jumped ahead a little bit. So okay, so we go from activity H to, again, I'm using this manual, you guys, and so reading right out of it, the activity summary, we're going to read the meanings of the 3 prefixes and explain how the meanings help unlock the meanings of unknown words. With each target word, have students read the explanation aloud with you. Have students find the word that matches the explanation and write it on the line provided. Have students apply the meaning of the word with assigned partners or with the whole class. So find activity I, look at the first prefix right here. Un means not or opposite. So if you heard someone call Jaden ungainly, even if you didn't know what gainly meant, you could guess that ungainly is the opposite of something. Gainly means graceful. So ungainly means what? Gainly means ungraceful, right? It means not graceful. So the opposite of graceful, what is a word that you know that's the opposite of graceful? Clumsy? Is clumsy the opposite of graceful? That's a possible word that kids come with. So ungainly means not graceful. So and it also means clumsy. So look at the second prefix, re, all right, which you learned in lesson 3. So re means again or back. So if Ria re-injured her leg, what could you guess about what Ria did? What do you guys guess Ria did if she re-injured her leg?
She did it again.
Good. She did something again. She re-injured her leg again. So this is your 3rd time working with Miss. So this is the next one right here, Miss. So remind yourself what it means. What could you guess if you heard that Michaela misjudged the height of the curb and ran her bike into it? So partner 1, tell partner 2, if you have partners, what you think miss means in this case if she misjudged the curb. What does that mean? So you guys, I'd like a volunteer. What could that mean, you guys?
That she was wrong.
That's right. She judged the curb wrongly, or she didn't judge the curb correctly. Let's learn the meanings of words that have the prefixes re and miss. So look at A. So right here, A. Read the explanation with me. Not fit, not healthy. So let's read that again. So not fit, not healthy. Well, then the students would say that. Find the word and write it. So pause and monitor. What word means not fit? So what word means not fit? So they're going to use these up here from line 1.
Unfit.
That's
I
correct.
was
So
looking for the hand.
yeah, so sorry. So it's really important to let them know, and I guess I don't think I did this with you guys. In section A, it tells you what line they're going to find the answer. So there's only 3 possible answers. So it's unfit. And so for the next one in line B, notice the answer to the question letter B is going to be in line 2. So it's going to be one of these 3 words. And so look at line B, read the explanation with me. To pay back, or to return money that was borrowed, or give back something you had received, such as a kindness or favor. Find the word and write it. So then you give them time to find the word. What does pay back mean in this section? And then you're gonna give them time to write it. So what word means to pay back?
Repay.
Very good. So if you pay back or repay the kind of deed that someone did for you, you do something nice for them. What other things could you repay? So I'm going to call on someone. Begin by saying, things I could repay include. What are things you could repay? Anyone? What could you repay?
Things I could repay are debts to friends.
Very good. You could repay a debt. Is there anything else you can repay?
Vengeful acts. Sorry.
That could be done. Yeah.
Yeah,
That could be done. You could repay a favor.
But remember, the students have to restate the question. They can't just answer with what they would pay. Have to say the whole sentence.
That is correct. Thank you for reminding me of that. So they do need to restate the whole sentence. So that's key. So look at C, read with me. To inform wrongly, to give the wrong information, find the word and write it. So remember, it's going to be in line 6. So to inform wrongly is in line 6. So they're going to look at their paper, find the answer, and then they're going to write it on the line here. What word means to inform wrongly? Misinform. Thank you. So if you went to the wrong address based on wrong information that someone gave you, you were misinformed. So thank you for doing that one with me. Let's see here. All right. So our second to last activity here that we're going to do today, this is where they're going to do their spelling dictation. So if you want to pretend to be a student, you'll see exactly kind of how they do that. If they you can actually write it down too. I think I'm not in Kami anymore. I need to go to my Kami version of this. All right, that way I can write it down. All right, so the first word is persist. What word?
Persist.
Thank you. And then they're supposed to put their fist up in the air and say the parts of persist together. So ready? Persist. So let's do that. That's an interesting thing. So first part, next part,
persist.
Very good. Say the parts and persist to yourself as you write the word. And so what they're going to do is they're going to go ahead and write. I'm so bad at writing with a mouse. All right. So they're going to write the word there and they're going to say persist.
Hi, Amy.
It's really important too, I want to mention that if at all possible, you do not want to answer. So when you ask a question, you don't want to have a teacher voice, because what they'll end up doing, and it's kind of happened during this presentation, is when I answer, I don't hear your voices any longer. And so it's really, really important that sometimes you have to let there be a silence and not say anything to force the students to answer. Because if you answer, then they're just going to wait for you to answer. And so the more teacher talk there is, the more work you're doing and the less work they're doing. So we really want to ensure that a major part of these protocols is to get the kids to respond to the questions. So you say, if you're talking about these word parts, first part, and then first part, Good. Because I had, yeah, exactly. And so I was trying to, that's what I'm trying to do is I don't want to answer. The kids should answer second part.
Sis.
Very good. So there should be very little teacher voice in the response. The response needs to come from the students, or else they're just going to wait for you, and it's them that have to come up with the answers. So all right. So another thing is, if the students are having trouble and you need to scaffold it, if they can't write the word on their own, one thing you can do is you can write the first part of the word, and you can write per, and then have them write the second time. Here's the first part of the word, per. Let me write that for you. And then can you write the second part? And so you'll say the word is persist. Go ahead and write the second part of the word persist. And then they'll write the second part, because certain kids, you have to kind of gauge where your students are. Spelling is a harder part of this program for some kids, is the spelling, actually writing down the words and knowing how to spell them. So sometimes the scaffolding is needed. It says if students make an error, have them cross out the misspelled word and rewrite the entire word. So at the end, at the very end, after they've written it, you actually go and you check all the words to make sure that they spelled it correctly. So and then you can show display 4.3, which is, where is that thing? There. 4.3 up here, and you can just put that up there. Here are the correct spelling words, and you go in and check all the kids and make sure that they did it right. So you're showing each one word for word, so cover up pieces of it. So some people don't like to use this because they like to spell them out for the kids on the Black Line Master. All right. So does all of this make sense so far? I think we only have one left. And so for the last lesson, which is K, you have two options here. You'll notice on page 71 that you have the regular academic vocabulary, and then on page 73 you have the illustrated academic vocabulary. So it gives you an option of whether you want to do the vocabulary lesson with, the lesson that's in the book that looks like this right here in the kid book, or you can do it with these words here. So you've got this is actually a lot greater detail, and I would say use these for your kids if they have kind of higher level, if they're kind of a higher levels type of kid and they're not struggling with what you've done so far, because it really goes into the word parts and the word families and synonyms and antonyms, and so they'll learn a lot more. They'll learn if it's a noun or a verb or what type of word it is. And so if your kids are, again, at the higher level, then you would use this version of the activity K. All right, so I'm going to show you using the more simplistic version of what to do with activity K. And so this is my last activity, and then we're done. It looks like we've got about 2 minutes left. So find activity K. You're going to learn 2 vocabulary words. Look at line 1. So here's the line they're talking about right here. Here's line 1. Because these are the words they're learning, and these are the words they learned in lesson 1 through 3, the review words. Here, these are the review words. We're back up in the learning up here. They're going to learn discard. They're going to decode it in their head. And just so you know, it's common to have students who read at this level not to be able to read in their head. So you might want to teach them the strategy of whisper reading to themselves, because they may be embarrassed and they'll pretend like they're reading, but unless they're reading 60 words per minute, they can't read silently. So a lot of times when you have kids read silently and they're pretending, it could be one of those kids that they're pretending to read because they don't know how to read silently. So just make sure that you're not embarrassing them, and you may, allow them to sit in the back of the room and read silently, or have them listen to an audiobook, and give all your kids the option of listening to an audiobook, because you don't want to really make those kids feel like they're somehow less than. They get a lot more out of reading an audiobook or listening to an audiobook than they would pretending to read when they can't read silently. So giving alternatives is always a good idea. So with each word, have students read the word silently and then say the word aloud. Have students read the explanation aloud with you. Give examples of how the word might be used. have students participate with you and or tell their partners applications of the word, and have students read the academic vocabulary words from the 2 previous lessons. So find activity K, you're going to learn 2 vocabulary words. Look at line 1, pause, and then read the word to yourself. Okay, so they're going to read discard by themselves. What word? And then you're going to say discard. Read the explanation with me. If you discard something, you get rid of it because you no longer want it or need it. Okay. If you are throwing a box into a dumpster, you are what? Discarding it. If you're throwing away an empty milk carton, you are what? Discarding it. So think, what other things do we discard in the classroom? Give ample thinking time. Partner 1, tell partner your partner 2, other things we discard in the classroom. So you read through the lesson, you go through the lesson, and that's our last activity. And I went over by 1 minute, and I'm sorry about that, but I will answer any questions you guys have if you want to stay on. Otherwise, you can log off for the day, and I hope this helped you a little bit. I highly recommend that you read the teacher's manual prior to teaching this, but I thank you for coming.
Thank you,
And,
Jason.
thank you very much, guys. Have a great evening.